So we talked a little bit earlier about sequels to video games. We talked about shit that is there anything we could all agree upon? Well, one of those things is probably that Last of Us 2 divided the fan base, and that Neil Druckmann, the way he handled everything was an absolute embarrassment for Naughty Dog. Well, we have some news out of Naughty Dog. Someone's getting a promotion, and it happens to be Neil Druckmann. From Naughty Dog's official website, an update from studio president Evan Wells. As we close out a year that's seen its challenges as we all live through the global pandemic, there have been bright moments too. One exciting moment for Naughty Dog was the long-anticipated release of Last of Us Part 2 in June. Another moment comes today as we wanted to share some other terrific news about the studio. At an all-studio meeting today, we announced some well-deserved promotions. Neil Druckmann now joins me as co-president of Naughty Dog after serving almost 3 years as vice president. And in addition, they're welcoming Allison Mori and Christian Geerling as vice presidents. So now they went from having one president and one vice president to 2 co-presidents and 2 co-vice presidents. Do
they have any staff left, or have they all left as well?
I see there's no female presidents.
Well, Neil Druckmann.
I mean, it kind of goes back to that quote from Kevin Smith before he cried about everything he ever looked at. But he talked about, when he was talking about John Peters in Hollywood, you fail upwards. And this is the literal definition of that. This is failing upwards right here. This is pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. The way that they treated the entire situation was a true embarrassment. And I don't know any of the real numbers. Obviously, we know that there were a lot of debate on how well the game sold. You can go to any store with your own 2 eyes, and you can see that there was no copies of Ghost of Tsushima, but you were stacks and stacks of Last of Us Part 2 over and over again. But obviously, the shill media loves The Last of Us Part 2. They love Naughty Dog. They love Neil Druckmann because he pushes all of their nonsense. But what was the story? And this is something I didn't pay a lot of attention to. I know, I'm sure Mark and Lethal probably have a lot of knowledge on this. But in terms of all of the mismanagement of the staff and everything that Jason Schreier reported on, what was going on with that?
So Jason Schreier obviously wrote an article on Crunch at a studio, which is kind of his thing. So that's not super shocking. But the interesting thing about Naughty Dog, which I don't think I've ever heard like exposed for any other studio, was that apparently so many people were quitting that were in charge of doing things like graphics modeling and stuff like that. They were starting to hire people that weren't even in game development at all. They were hiring Hollywood people, because they didn't have anyone that could model at the quality they'd need to in the gaming industry that wanted to be anywhere near Naughty Dog at a certain point. So the game took a while to make because essentially they had a whole lot of talent drain, which, I mean, Jason Schreier says apparently is because of how hard they were working the staff. It could be any number of reasons. But the thing that I think impacted the story of the game the most is that apparently it was a real environment of, if anyone brought up an idea that contradicted what Neil wanted to do, or like mentioned that his idea might not be perfect and they should go about it a different way, it's like they were immediately shut down. Like it was like, no, that's not the kind of game we're making, and shut up. And I think eventually you hear that enough times, and eventually you're like, all right, well, I'll go work over there. They're in Santa Monica, I'm pretty sure, like LA. So there's lots of different places that people who have Naughty Dog worked on The Last of Us and Uncharted 4 on their resume can go work. And
70% of the people, right? 70% of the people that worked on Uncharted 4 had left by the time Jason Schreier wrote his article.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's 70% staff turnover between the end of Uncharted 4 and in the midst of, a year before The Last of Us Part 2 released.
That's crazy. That means you got some pretty bad management going on right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but yeah, like Lethal said, promote that man. The Neil Druckmann was chained. It was him and Bruce Straley who wrote The Last of Us. Mm-hmm. We know from Neil Druckmann speaking way back in 2013, 2014, when he's talking about what his goal was, all about identity politics, to create this female character because he doesn't like people like Cortana, doesn't like people, the way they depict women in games. He'd rather have the She-Man Abby with their tiny tits hanging out while getting slammed from behind, right? That's what Neil Druckmann wants to portray women as in his game. But the thing is, as soon as he got that power, it was all him. We saw him chained in Last of Us. We saw him chained as well when him and Bruce Straley worked on Uncharted 4 after they forced Amy Hennig out. A lot of complaints about some of the things that happened in that game narratively that were changes from what they were supposed to do. But then Bruce Straley leaves the company, and it's all Neil Druckmann. And evidently Naughty Dog is doubling down on that. The sales for this game, although they set records, they stalled out. As soon as people realized that hashtag they lied to us about what was going to happen in this game, what happened to Joel, that this is a game about Ellie and Abby, people stopped buying. I have numbers from a Best Buy that I've been tracking the entire time. So the anecdotal evidence, you see these stacks. Best Buy on Black Friday, half off, right? $29.99. Stacks and stacks of these things in a cage with Marvel's Avengers. Neither of them really moved too much. I have actual numbers that showed from a Best Buy. They have had 100 copies of The Last of Us 2 sitting there for months after the release. They put it at half price. They're down to 87 copies after all the Black Friday sales.
It's crazy because they'll call that sales, right? Whatever they send to the distributor, whatever they send to Best Buy, Walmart, et cetera, those are all considered sales because they sell those to those companies. So they put that down as, well, we sold 5, 6, 10 million copies. But really, from creator to customer, it's a fraction. It's not even close.
Yeah, well, you can feel statistics known as sold through. Sold through.
Right. They didn't sell through all of it.
Right. You can feel when there's a game and you can feel the excitement or the lack of enthusiasm. It's just a thing. If you're kind of involved in gaming, you can feel it. So like, for instance, Doom Eternal is something you could feel that people really loved that game.
Yeah, I really like
that game. If you want to take it to the next level, Ghost of Tsushima, you could feel that people love that game. Taking it to Call of Duty, Black Ops Cold War, I can feel that people are kind of checked out on that game, even though I love it. And even though most of us are really into this game, you can still feel that there's a ton of criticism. I think it's hovering at a lukewarm. I think it's hovering. Yeah, I think so too. And that's kind of Call of Duty. I mean, Call of Duty is going to have a mega reaction one way or the other, but I do feel that it kind of is leaning towards more negative than positive. I feel like Modern Warfare had more of a positive reaction. When it comes to The Last of Us Part 2, there was no positivity from actual gamers that I felt. There was positivity from the media that was trying to make you believe that this is the greatest game of all time. But when you actually listen to gamers, you never got the feel that gamers were enjoying this game. And that's just how it is. But the media fell in love with this game. They fell in love with the narrative that they wanted to build around it. And they did everything in their power to put out this make-believe story that this is the most beloved game of all time. And it just wasn't the case. It just wasn't.
You will still find gamers that flat out call Last of Us 2 an absolute masterpiece, 10 out of 10. My theory is that they're mostly distracted by solid performances and dialogue that sounds like it's well written, even if the story it's telling makes no sense, because the production value of The Last of Us is very high, which is why, like, when we were talking about the Game Awards nominees a couple weeks back, I said I have no problem with the performance nominations at all because they were good. Like, I mean, again, coming from a person who didn't play the game but watched it all, I saw all the performances. I can tell you they were really solid. It seems like they cost a lot of money. I don't think The Last of Us is a game they could have made as an indie project. And I think if you read that story as a novel, it would be one of the worst books you've ever read. But like, there's a lot of glitz and glamour in a project with the amount of budget behind it that The Last of Us has that can trick a lot of people into thinking, oh, this game's an absolute masterpiece. Even if, like, well, the gameplay is like sort of middling stealth action. It's kind of a shitty third-person shooter, but it plays well enough that I can convince myself to like it because, oh, look at how Ellie's eyes are moving in the cutscenes. It looks like a real person. Like,
she played a guitar. Look, I played a guitar. I love this game.
Yeah.
Are they going to change her name to Elliot?
There's a group of there's a group of people out there that there are fans of this game. There's no doubt, but these are fans that are hyped it up for forever. These are the same people that are Raylos that ship, you know, Ray and Kylo, that go crazy over that spam hashtags over that.
Raylos are weird too, by the way.
There's a group of fucking weird people out there that do like this game, that will stand this game. And that's the audience they targeted. Neil Druckmann even the other day was like, thanks, Abby Stands, for getting this trending, you know, encouraging these fucking nut jobs to go ahead and spam the hashtag the same way that they spammed their way to a victory in the Game Awards. Well,
right. No, well, you're right. There are people out there, and there are some weird people out there that do support these games and like these games. And I bring it back to what I've been saying, and this is going to be something I'm gonna be using as the standard moving forward. Okay, there's the group of people that like this game. Could they survive the Modern Warfare 2 lobby? That's it. And no, the group of people that love The Last of Us 2 could not survive it. Could the people that love God of War 3 or God of War 4, could they survive it? Yes. That's the standard right there. So the group of people that are into The Last of Us Part 2 are not like real gamers. They're social justice parasites. They're not really real gamers. So they could not survive the Modern Warfare 2 lobby. That's the standard right there. Well, that's it. So like, and to take it a step further, Animal Crossing couldn't survive the Modern Warfare 2 lobby because it's generally not gamers that are out there playing it. Some are, but generally speaking, not real
casuals.
Gamers.
It's your casuals.
Yes,
people who will play anything if it's got a kind of a nice kind of marketing element to it, right?
Right. So just start asking yourself that when you see a group of people that are fanning over something, just ask a simple question.
And I think
this group of people survived the Modern Warfare 2 lobby. You'll get the answer real quick.
And most Ahsoka fans survive them.
I think it's going to be interesting to see with the next Last of Us game if they make another one. Which, I mean, you guys know better than me if they're making a third one. But it'd be interesting to see how many orders companies like Walmart, GameStop, all these other ones who probably have a lot of extra stock from Last of Us 2 sitting around. It'll be interesting to see how much they order for the third one, because of course they ordered a ton for the second one because of the artificial hype from it. But now when they look at their numbers and say, well, we bought a ton of these, we really didn't sell as many as we thought we would. We're going to order 35% less in regards to, the next game. And if we sell through them, then we'll add some more. But I think that's going to be something that's going to affect the franchise moving forward, because always that second game in any good or any like highly anticipated franchise, the second game usually is overkill in how they sell. They don't sell as good necessarily unless it's like a hit, a bona fide hit. Doesn't sell as great, but going into the third one, there's usually that balance where you find out if it's really going to sell the kind of numbers that they predict it'll sell.
At the end of the day, The Last of Us sold 17 million copies, give or take, across 2 platforms. The first one. This one, you're sitting somewhere around 6,000 or 6 million copies digitally, plus the ones that are just shipped and sitting in stores. It has a long way to go. And to me, it's never going to reach it. It's completely stalled out. I think it will be eventually passed by something like Ghost of Tsushima. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. What do you think, Leith? You've been kind of quiet through this whole thing.
I think that if what happens, what Uche said, if they did sell that much of Last of Us 3, if it ever happens, all the news reports you would see is Last of Us 3 continues to break records.
Yeah. If those companies buy those copies from Naughty Dog will use that as their scale of sales rather than how many customers actually have the game. But if a company like GameStop says, well, on Last of Us 2 we bought 1 million copies, we only sold like 400,000, so we really only want 500,000 of Last of Us 3. If we sell through it, then we'll order more, but we don't want that many up front because we're already dying to stay afloat as a company. We're not going to overspend assuming that a game is going to be a rock solid hit.
This is also, though, the generation where they're going to be able to start hiding behind physical sales numbers not mattering as much, because you could easily say, well, Last of Us 3 didn't sell as many physical copies, but a lot of people own the all-digital PlayStation 5, and that's where we saw most of our sales.
Yep. And it kind of goes back to like with what was saying with Uche's point, like look at the rise of Skywalker and how bad it did in compared to where it should have been. But the media treated it like it was this overwhelming success and just trying to, spin it into all these records it's breaking. But anybody that's paid attention, like, this is not doing well at all. This is a 50% drop. 50% drop from The Force Awakens. But Last of Us 3, if it comes out, that they will just, it'll break every record ever in the history of gaming.
Kind of ironic how they got the Game Awards going around, which no one really gives a fuck about. And then while that's going around, they put out a new trailer for a game that's been out for months, showing it from Abby's point of view to get people talking about it again.
Yeah, that was weird. It got ratio too, from what I could see.
Did it get ratio?
Oh yeah, to like 40%.
Nice. I didn't see that.
I just saw the Twitter one. I just saw the one on Twitter. I didn't even think about to look at a YouTube. I'm not in the mode anymore. 6 months ago, God, I would have been making a video about that as soon as the dislikes went more. Oh, got to get back on the train.
Yeah, it's at 40%. 2 days ago, 174,000 views, 40% rating.
There you go. Hashtag Game of the Year, right? This is divisive as fuck. But you won't get that if you listen to the media. The only people that don't like it, it's just the racists, the bigots, the misogynists that don't like women in their games. That's all you hear from the mainstream media. But time after time, all the evidence shows that this game is highly divisive. And we know it's going to win Game of the Year. I think we all understand that.
They told us it was going to win Game of the Year before it even came out. Like, all the early reviews of it all said this is Game of the Year.
Yeah, actually, there were posters and trailers with like 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars, 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10, masterpiece before the game launched.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've got it up here though. So this is on the PlayStation account. 424,000 views, 33 up to 21 down. But that's pretty bad. That's very bad. Go on IGN.
IGN's is bad.
176,000 views. 7.4 up to 11 down.
Nice. We got to make a video on this.
I got more shirts to sell. More losers.
That's my only, I guess, disappointment in Cyberpunk not releasing when it was supposed to, or when it was initially supposed to be released, because I kind of wanted it to get into that Game of the Year category for this year's games, because there would have been no way in hell The Last of Us 2 could overshadow Cyberpunk 2077 as Game of the Year.
They would have pulled some bullshit.
Yeah. This game, no way, dude. That's like no way, dude. Cyberpunk, had it made that launch in March, it would have fucking changed the entire landscape.
But we can see, like, from our point of view, not even a contest. But like, look at how these games have been portrayed in the media. Like we were saying before, Last of Us 2 wasn't even released, and it was telling us Game of the Year. Cyberpunk still a year away from development, and they're already trying to cancel it for transphobia or whatever.
I guess they are.
From day one, they've been saying no, Cyberpunk bad, Last of Us good. From day one.
Right. As far as Naughty Dog goes, congratulations, Neil Druckmann, from going from vice president to co-president, which sounds like it's exactly the same thing, has exactly the same responsibilities, and just as an empty virtue signal, like what their fucking game is. So
absolutely,
I give it like 2 years before. What's the president's name? Evan Wells.
Yeah.
I give it 2 years before he's out of the company. I guarantee.
Evan Wells didn't kill himself.
I was going to say he's going to. Neil Druckmann's going to Kamala Harris him. Huh?
No, I'm willing to bet you any amount of money that's where that's going, because that seems to be that Neil Druckmann's path is get to a level in the company and the person around him gets kicked out.
Everybody out.
Amy Hennig and Bruce Straley, and like Evan, you're next.